Shalom, shalom. Kol halalim la Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Rakak Kodash. Brakti Yahweh, Brakti Yahweh Shai, Brakti Yahweh, Brakti Yahweh Shai, Brakti Yahweh, Brakti Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Rakak Kodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Shalom to the prophets of our body. Shalom to the 144,000 and 1/3. Peace and blessings to your house, upon your households. Spirit of endurance. Just went into YouTube world and live King Charles and royal family attend 80th anniversary of UK's VE Day parade in London. All right, North London N18. As you can see, that Buckingham Palace. I sometimes think about how when Jake ruled England at that time, the so-called black man, Southern Kingdom of Israel, when they ruled England, how much pomp and how much regalness, if that's a term, was there. Because we're the real kings of the earth under the spirit and power of Yahweh B'Hashem Yahweh Shai. All right. Now, if you look at this, right, even look at the thumbs up. How many people are watching? This has been on for about an hour and 6 minutes. 102 thumbs up, 1,063 people watching. Now, as you can see, the fashion of this world is passing away. Okay. 2 Ezra 6 verse 9, for Esau is the end of the world and Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth. We can see, the end of something old and the start of something new. We can see our kingdom coming into fruition. You can see it. Look at this. This is dead. This is a bank holiday weekend, so the Monday is off in the UK, right? And a lot of people are sitting indoors. People don't want to be there no more. If you look at the old footage of when the Queen became Queen in 1952 or 53, I believe, right? Okay. Actually, let's go there. Actually, if I can find it. There's so many. Let's go here. Actually, no. When Queen Elizabeth became Queen, the coronation, as 2nd of June 1953, right? Let's go there and show you the difference of, how the kingdom is falling. That's how it is now. Hardly anybody there. People don't care no more. Look at the thumbs up, 103 thumbs up. When King Charles became king a couple of years ago, when his mother supposedly passed away, right? All right, I got my thoughts of them going to the bunkers. Some of them are probably still alive. Maybe some of them have gone to, have left their earthly bodies, right? But they'll eventually meet their maker. Whether they're generally gone or they're in their bunkers, we'll soon find out. But when he became king, people were chucking eggs at Prince Charles. People were chucking eggs at him, tomatoes, rotten vegetables, yeah, rotten vegetables, Now let's just look at this. I'm trying to see if I can find that old black and white footage. It's got the whole footage when she comes in. Let's check it out. And by the way, fair use. I'm not making no money out of this. This is just strictly for historic purposes. All right. I'm not saying nothing adverse to it. I'm just showing the difference between the royals of then and the royals of today. So-called royals of then and so-called royals of today. There you go. Check it out. 21 gun salute, whatever it is.
At all points of her realm, her crowning is proclaimed.
1953.
From St. James's Palace, the words are read. By the Queen, a proclamation declaring Her Majesty's pleasure touching her royal coronation and the solemnity thereof, that all her realm shall know the Queen is to be crowned. She comes to us in the sorrow of her father's passing. our sovereign lord, King George VI, who in a true and entire devotion lived through dangerous years in the lives of his people.
Look at the people. Look at the people, right? Look how they're dressed first. And secondly, you got youngsters, you got middle-aged, you got the elderly, you got children, all right? And also you got to look at the health as well. You do see many walking sticks there. Well, it is Esau's kingdom, so they're going to be somewhat healthy, aren't they? But nevertheless, look at the people. Look at the streets are flooded. Now let's go here, right? We're not talking about the army and all that and the police. They're going to be there. That's understandable, right? But look at the people, the watchers. There's hardly anybody in the streets. People that probably live nearby, they're probably saying, "Oh, let's just go and get a couple of beers from the store and see what's going on." That's all it is. Nobody else cares. Nobody traveled from miles and miles around the world. From back in the day, people traveled from their colonies. Like be it South Africa or I don't know, it's different. South Africa, India, different parts of the world because Britain ruled 120 provinces, didn't they? Look at that. Hardly anybody there. Look. How many people watching? 1,040, 109 thumbs up. Look at that. Just look behind them. Streets are empty. Look at that. You got a few people there. Look at this. People making fun of it. Trump thinks he's going to war. This reminds me of the old TV program Dad's Army. Yeah, if you know about Dad's Army, it was like basically a British sitcom uh, focused on the British Army and the blunders and the stupidity of the British Army. Let's go to the old stuff. Look at the people. Look at the people in the street. This is the Queen's coronation, by the way. Look at that. Look at that. Look at that. Look. Look at that. Streets lined up, full to the brim. Look at that. Full, 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 full. Look at that. Now look at this. Let's see what's going on here. Yeah, look at that. You probably got like that. Little scattering, plenty of room to walk around behind there. Not a lot of people there. Not a lot there. What is a VE parade? What is VE Day? VE Day, or Victory in Europe Day, marks the end of World War II in Europe, specifically on May the 8th, 1945. It commemorates the Allied victory after Germany's unconditional surrender the previous day. This year, the 80th anniversary is being celebrated with a 4-day event in the UK, including military processions, fly-pasts, and street parties. There's no street parties around here. No one's doing street parties, man, unless it's a really heavy Edomite area. Okay, so we know what it is, how it's celebrated. People celebrate by taking to the streets, holding parties, singing, dancing, and remembering the sacrifices made during the war. This year, the UK has organized a 4-day event with various commemorative activities. That's VE Day. Look at that. People calling him a laughing stock. Free England. King should have a haircut. What is this? So people don't take this thing seriously anymore. Back in the day, right? Back then, in this era, if you made some kind of mockery or fight, or any kind of even if it's a little joke on the king or queen or whatever at that time, the royals at that time, there'll be a fist fight, and you won't be alone. There'll be a lot of people against you, literally take your head off. This is when the Queen was loved by the world, man. Canada, or the people that are there, Edomites from England could live in Australia, Canada, America, different parts of the world, where Esau, the so-called white man of England, had some kind of clout, you know, and had that power, And this is only just over 70 years ago. Look how much the world has changed, because the truth sprang forth, what, 1969, 1970, right? After 350 years, 3.5 days, you know? Now look at the world, look at the vibration of Jake. That's in the book of Revelations. Our prophets have been teaching. After 3.5 days, the spirit of Yahweh Shemashai. Okay, let's go to that scripture actually. After 3.5 days, King James Version. I think it's in. I think it's the book of the Revelation, yeah. Revelation 11:11. After 3 days and a half, the spirit of life from Yahweh, Bahashem Yahushai, entered into them, and they stood upon their feet, and great fear fell upon them which saw them. These elites can't sleep. They can't sleep. Okay? And look at the vibration, man. All right? Look at the quiet, empty streets. There's people there, don't get it twisted, but look at that. That's a scattering. The streets are not even full. And it's mainly media and people that live nearby, because you can tell the way they're dressed, because back in the day they would have dressed up. And these people probably live local in London. Look at that, not a lot of people even sitting there in the audience. It's a cold, grey day, which goes to show, that Lord is not even blessing this day with sunshine. It was raining just about 5-10 minutes ago, a little scattering of rain. Let's go back to 70 years prior. Look at that. Look at the streets. Look at this now. Empty room. Back in the day, you'll be all full with their grandchildren, their great-grandchildren, with their hair slicked back and shit, All the so-called royals, the Edomites at the time, They're standing there trying to look all regal. Honestly, no Gen Zs, not even Gen X. It's only just many staff that are there, you can tell. Some of them are in civilian clothing. See? Now let's go to the old world, man. 70 years. What's this, 1953? 63? 16 years later after this, Abba Bibbins, Salak, is it Bivins or Bivins, and the heads of One West, the Israelites, High Priest Arya and the other elders, started teaching. Then our apostles, joined up, a decade and a bit after that, after 1969, the early 80s, mid 80s, and that, and from there the truth just spread, man. Okay, it's affected the world so much that the Lord Yahweh Shemashai, through His Spirit and power, is dismantling this world. The Lord is plucking up that which is planted. As you can see, this was planted. This is just 70 years ago. How much more, even 100 years ago, when Esau was in his power, full power. Now look today. People don't care. People are just standing around. The streets are empty. This would have been full, right down to the edges. You would have seen a whole lot of shouting in the background. Like when Mike Tyson enters the stadium and everyone's just erupting. Everybody just stands up and claps and just says, you can just hear claps in the background and nothing but cheers and happiness and all that. There's nothing here. Look, there's people there, but it's not as much as it used to be. Probably about 20% of the amount. Look at that. Look at that. Look at the gaps everywhere. Look at there's hardly anybody there. This roundabout here would have been completely full of people just standing there with their children. Well, there's some water there as well, so you can sit on the edge there as well, like a little stoop. That's where people will be sitting. Well, there won't be no VE day next after this one because, let's go to scripture, man. Showing you the difference, man. The Lord is plucking up that which was planted. Look at this. Look at Esau's. Look at it. Can you hear the cheering in the background? Can you hear that? Check this out. Let's hear the cheering here. You can hear a few claps. You can hear the drums. Some people are clapping. They're mismatched claps. Not many. Now hear this. Hear this. Oh, 144. Paused it on 441 without even knowing that's a spirit, man. Anyway, let's go. Check this out. Can you hear that? Hear this. Hear the liveliness, the cheering, the happiness, the pride these devils had. Check it out. Hear it. Look at that. Esau's kingdom is falling, boy. Look at that. Look at them. All happy and pride with this damn devil and the fake, like the book of Maccabees says, man, they paint the likeness of their images. And they actually believe the bullshit they're painting, man. Bunch of thieves, murderers, and enslavers, man.
Saint-Pierre.
Okay. Commercials. Yeah. Now you saw the pomp there, right? Check this. Let's listen to this one now. Okay, you can hear the band. Turn the band off. Do you hear any people cheering? Look at that. Do you see anybody waving any Union Jack flags? Any youngsters? Any elderly? You think these old crackers here, these Edomites, these decrepit Edomites, will be waving their flags, saying, "Oh yeah, World War II." They were so proud of, England was, such a proud nation. Keep Britain tidy. There'll be signs everywhere. That doesn't even exist anymore because nobody cares about keeping Britain tidy. Yeah, you can't say, hey, can't fix a country. Damn right you can't. Look at that. You can hear the horses' shoes hitting the floor. The horseshoes. You can hear the trumpet. You can hear muttering of words in the background, but you can't hear no liveliness. Let's get out of this. Slovakia was commercial. Commercials. Ruling the flow. Here we go. Look at that. Look at that. Flags being waved, the streets lined up, the decorations, the army, the people of every generation. There. All right, let's go to scripture, man. A time to pluck up which was planted, King James Version. Ecclesiastes 3. To everything there is a season and a time to every purpose under the heaven. To everything there is a season and a time to every purpose under the heaven. A time to be born and a time to die. A time to plant and a time to pluck up that which is planted. A time to kill and a time to heal. A time to break down and a time to build up. Okay? I'm just going to leave it there. Now is the time the Lord is plucking up. Verse 2 is excellent. A time to be born and a time to die. A time to plant, which was Esau's time to plant. 70 years ago, Esau was planting, doing his thing. You see the liveliness everywhere. Just this 1953, bruv. That wasn't even that long ago. 72 years ago, I believe. Yeah, right. And now 2025, when King Charles or Prince Charles became king, when his mother supposedly, uh, expired, right? People were chucking eggs at him, eggs at him. People were chucking eggs and tomatoes at him, and he was just taking it. Nobody loves the royals anymore, man. That goes to show the pride of Esau is being dismantled. This kingdom is falling apart, and the scriptures are true. All right, I know that, but do you know that? I know they're true. All right, and so the Lord is not a man that he should lie. He's destroying this kingdom, man. Okay, there's no regalness and pomp to Britain anymore. Nobody, or the countries that have been stolen by the so-called white man that come under the banner of England, right? Worship the Queen like that. They'd worship the Queen. They'd have that bitch's picture up on their wall. We never had one in our house, but most people did, especially so-called Jamaicans, Nigerians, um, and some families that worship. Heathens like East Indians would have them too. Elam would have her picture. Jake foreigners would have a picture for the most part. They actually no, not that I know of. Being a Jake foreigner, I know no family was had the Queen's face up like that. Nah, no. But we know of others that do. You know, nobody worships her no more. Nobody puts them on a higher pedestal. Nobody even has that pride. You got our people that were being ruled by these devils and had some kind of pride, thinking, "Oh, that's our queen," or "We belong to a royal country." What a royal country she stole? She stole all your resources, man. You know, destroyed you. And then when you Jakes came over to help out, because these English, these Edomites, well, the real English are Israelites, but these Edomites, these crackers, right, wouldn't even let you do the work they didn't want to do. You know, so this kingdom is falling apart beautifully, man. To everything there is a season and a time to every purpose under heaven, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to pluck up that which is planted. Esau's kingdom was born, right? It was lively. This is just 70 years ago, June 1953, right? This was still in its being plucked up stage, but it was being plucked up very, very, the way the Lord does it in His magnificent, meticulous way. Now this is here we are today. Streets empty. Not much of a parade either. Look at that. That's all the pavements there. There's hardly anybody there. Now let's go to old school days. Look at that. That's leading up to Buckingham Palace, more than likely, right? Look at the people right to the edges, and you've got the soldiers there to hold them back, just in case somebody tries to run up to the Queen's carriage. Look at that, the flags waving, the noise in the background, people cheering. People looking through their windows. Look at that. Now look at today. Look at them, all worn out. They don't care. No one's waving. There's plenty of space for people to walk around because they know their time when the sun is over. It's over. They know that. You can see it. A lot of these Edomites are having dreams of Israelites whipping them. They've probably seen Yahweh Shai, His Majesty, as well, man. Just lynching them and putting them to death. And raising them up and putting them to death again. However the Lord is doing it. They're seeing it all, man. Look at that. Look, look, look. There's hardly any people. There's not hardly any civilians. There's either reporters or some kind of I don't know, like Boy Scouts and all that kind of situation. Boy Scouts, army and reserves and all that. Look at that. Look at the difference. Look at that. Look at that. Just look at that. Do you see that hit today? Pride in thy heart hath deceived thee. King James Version. Obadiah 1 and 3. The pride of thine heart hath deceived thee. Thou that dwellest in the clefts of the rock, whose habitation is high, that saith in his heart, who shall bring me down to the ground? Well, the Lord Yahweh Bashem is bringing you down to the ground, and his men of the Lord, his mouthpiece, the men of great millstone. Their teachings in the spirit and power of Yahweh Bashem is chanting down this kingdom, man. All right, is chanting this kingdom down. And that pride that you Edomites had once, all right, here, from being the biggest thieves, right? Right? Or that pomp that you once had is this garbage today. No one's cheering, no one's waving any flags. There's only some old motherfuckers from back in the day that were children that saw this. Do you see anybody that's in their 40s, 30s, 20s, teens there? Do you see all the family members together? Look at that. You can't even hear anybody cheering. All you can hear is the band and maybe a couple of people murmuring in the background that are just talking amongst themselves. I don't really give it shit. They probably got the day off work saying, cool, Or I live nearby. Let's go and go walk through and when I go and pick up a loaf of bread or something. All right, it gives you an indication. Now check this out. Streets lined up. Verse 1, Ecclesiastes 3, to everything there is a season and a time to every purpose under the heaven. All right, so now the time is, the Lord has been a time to be born, a time to die, a time to plant, and a time to pluck up that which is planted. The Lord has been plucking up Esau's kingdom slowly but surely, to the point where hardly anybody respects the royal family anymore. People are calling out what the royal family and the so-called white man has done in terms of its atrocities to the so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians, who collectively, as a bulk, are the Israelites. But don't get it twisted, as Jake scattered to the four corners of the earth, specifically in Deuteronomy 28, verse 64. Right? You've got people calling them out. You've got people hating Trump. You've got people hating the royal family. You've got people chucking eggs at Prince Charles or King Charles when he became king. Right? You've got people calling these people out. Countries that these so-called white man, these Edomites stole from. India demanding their diamonds and stones back, which is in the Queen's crown. All the gold and diamonds and the precious metals and all the wealth, which is in the trillions they stole from India, turned India from a first world land to a third world land. Other parts of the world, like countries in Africa, that from first world lands they turned to third world lands. Every country is saying to them, "Give our shit back." Nobody's respecting the Queen no more. You got Edomites being jumped. You got holiday makers going to Thailand, different parts of the world. Whole families, men, women, and children being jumped by the locals because they're tired of the so-called white man coming into their areas, their towns, and thinking that as soon as they see a woman, they assume is a prostitute, or because that women of that area or that country are known for selling themselves, they think that they can go into one of the local towns, see a cute butt of a beautiful female, and pinch it. Right? Then they find out when that woman screams, okay, it's a so-called white man being an ass again. So what do? They jump and beat the shit out of him and his whole family too. I've been seeing that. You know, everybody hates the so-called white man. Everybody hates England. Everybody hates America. Everybody hates Australia, pointing out what the Australian Edomites did there to the indigenous in Australia, who are the Japhetic people. The Aborigines. They call it Aborigines over there, right? Everybody's calling out the so-called white man. All right. I was just curious when I saw this. I thought, okay, you know what? Let me just see what's going on, and then it just goes to show the differentiation, the difference in the same area, right? And the amount of pomp and the amount of valor and the amount of people that are flag waving and happy and pride that the Lord is bringing down the pride of the so-called white man and destroying their kingdom from once an empire that was envied by the other nations, from once a people that everybody wants to be like. Oh, you want to be impress a so-called white man? You want to get a job in the office? Oh, three-piece suit, a nice haircut. If you're a so-called black man, straighten your hair, slick it back, clean shave. Make sure your face is nice and polished up and shiny. You know, if you had 5 o'clock shadow, oh, you haven't shaved. You miss a day, 2 days shaving. Oh, you haven't shaved. Make sure you shave. From that era to the point where nobody, everybody wants to be like the so-called white man, wear a suit, get rid of their traditional clothing, their indigenous attire. Everybody wants to learn English. Everybody wants to have an English sounding name. If your name is Zing Chao Chu or something, they're going to call him, Zing Chao Chu Chow Mein or something. They might call the man, he might change his name to Thomas Chow Mein or something. That's what a lot of these people, everybody wants to fit in. Even though I'm going to go and say that those English names are originally ours, which they are. The black so-called black nobility that was in England. But you know what I'm trying to say. Everybody wants to be like the England that we know of England today, not the ancient world England, which was ruled by the Israelites. We're talking about the one now ruled by these crackers, these Edomites. Everybody wants to be like them. Now to the point where nobody wants to be like them. You've got some of the nations, especially Ishmael and some East Indian nations that stick to their attire, or they might wear some of their traditional attire along with Western clothing, but they don't abandon their traditional attire altogether. You've got a lot of people coming up against you. We see the pomp and valor being destroyed. The Lord is dismantling this kingdom, man. All right. So 2 Ezra 6 verse 9. 2 Ezra 6 verse 9, King James Version. 2 Ezra's. I don't know where that come from. Second Ezra 6 verse 9. For Esau, the so-called white man, is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth. Now what you're seeing here in real time is the end of this world, man. All right. Look at the amount of people. Look. You don't see no pride there anymore, do you? That pride has been taken away. People are crying. They want the old England back. People are getting nostalgic. I want this. I want the world back to be that again. This is what they want back, man. They want to make America great again. They want to make England great again. This is what they want. Look at that. All the cheering. Hear it. Streets full.
Yeah.
Now check this out. Hardly anybody cheering. People are talking amongst themselves, commiserating and that, They don't care. Then you got the divide amongst the Scottish and the English and the Irish, Ain't no building back England and America again, man. This is a perfect example of a so-called white man's, falling. You got to compare it how it used to be and how it is now, and where we're at, and how the world feels about this place. Anyway, just a quick comparison there, man, which is a beautiful sign that the so-called white man's world is falling. All praises to Yahweh B'Ashem El Shai B'Ashem Rakak Kodash. Shalom.